Hey guys, I'm your CPC Commissioner 681 Shadow here. Welcome to another coach interview. Today we are interviewing coach of the St. Louis Reshirams, Matty Brollic.
What's going on, everybody?
Alright, so let's get right to the question. So, how long have you been playing Pokemon?
Competitively for a pretty long time, actually. I started maybe about 6 years ago. One of my friends wanted to challenge me to a Pokemon battle just in high school when Black and White came out. And we were playing here and there, and we thought we were pretty good. And then another friend just came around and ended up destroying us because he knew how to play competitively. So he got me into Pokemon Online, and it was all downhill from there, basically.
I thought I was the only one that started on Pokemon Online. I guess I'm not. Wow.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Pokemon, great place.
it was a great place. Yeah. Uh, but so how much Pokemon Draft League experience do you have?
Not a ton. Currently, right now, I'm kind of like falling in love with the format. I first started last season in the MPL, which started last winter, I believe. Yeah, around last winter, and from there, I've played in a couple different things. I played there. I played in the March Madness tournament, the one on in April actually, and then now I'm currently a coach of the season 5 of the MPL. So about halfway done with that regular season there. So that's a decent amount of games that I've been able to get in. And now, yeah, I've gotten my draft in here. Currently in the process of drafting my next summer showdown tournament through the Token Minorities. So yeah, I guess I've drafted a pretty decent number of teams. But as far as actual draft games that I've had, it really hasn't been it hasn't been a ton. It's been probably around 20 games or so.
Alright, yeah, you definitely seem skilled, probably because you've been in the competitive scene for so long. That's definitely helping with you getting into the draft scene.
Yeah, 100%. Over time, I just tried to play different tiers here and there. But my favorite thing to do was just incorporate lower tier Pokemon in the OU tier. That was always my favorite way to play. So by just practicing so hard to become good at that, it definitely helped me adapt to the draft format quicker than probably a good amount of people, just because I had experience using lower tiered Pokemon at a high level, while I also had experience using higher tiered Pokemon at a high level. So I think that definitely came to my aid.
Alright, so how much confidence do you have going into this season of the CPC?
You know, not much. It's probably the most stacked league I've ever seen. It's, from top to bottom, just filled with all stars, basically. Some of the best draft league players I've ever, come across are all, it's just kind of stacked together and thrown together in this league, which, you know, that's one of the main reasons I wanted to join, because even though the MPL is my primary league, uh, this league, without a doubt, will help me improve. It'll help pretty much everyone in it improve. It'll be really interesting to see who does well this season, who ends up, winning, et cetera, because there're just so many good players that I can't even picture how it's going to pan out. It's going to be so back and forth, in my opinion. I'm sure some players will do exceptionally well, but I can't ever picture anybody going like undefeated or just completely dominating this season because of how much talent we have. So, because of that, my confidence level isn't crazy high, and also due to the fact that most of my preparation time will be spent in the NPL. I don't want to let this get too much in the way of that. But my competitive nature will definitely force me to prepare as much as I possibly can for these games as well, just so I don't fall behind completely, because everybody's just so good.
Alright, yeah, I definitely agree with what you were saying on how no one's really going to go undefeated. It's definitely too stacked for anyone to have an overly good record.
Yeah, it's to be dominant in a league like this would be very impressive, but to go undefeated, I think is almost virtually impossible, especially in a game like Pokemon 2, where you could be in a good position to win a bunch of games and then lose due to hacks or just strange things happening here and there. So if someone can go undefeated in this league, hats off to them.
Yeah, definitely. So, not looking at the coach that drafted the team, what is the scariest draft that you see?
Let me take a look really quickly, because there are definitely a lot of really scary teams. Hmm, that's definitely a loaded question. I would say that one of them has to be the um, one of them's got to be the Arizona Carvanas, just because all those offensive threats with combined with Pokemon like Scolipede that have great speed control. Um, what else? Decent defensive core with Pokemon like Diancie, Zapdos. Mega Blastoise is a great bulky attacker that could take a lot of hits as well. Crocodile could have its defensive usages also. So I think overall his team is definitely one of the scariest to face because it gives him the opportunity to go, both offensive, defensive, all out offensive, bulky offensive, and he's just got the firepower to do so. Things like Vintini and Lucario are some of the hardest Pokemon to try to prepare for in this type of format, and like I said, coupled with fast things like Scolipede, Pokemon that are really underrated and have great utility like Uxie. That's definitely, in my opinion, at least one of the scariest drafts. But so many of these right now that I'm looking at are just terrifying.
Yeah, there are definitely a ton of crazy drafts, and that definitely comes with having such a stacked competition. There's definitely guaranteed to be a lot of scary drafts that we're all going to have to face at some point during the season.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, now, based off just the name of the coaches, who is the scariest coach who's participating this season?
It's tough to say. It's really tough to say because the some of the guys in this league are just so good. I mean, you have guys that I've known for a while now, like Tobivore and Trev the King, who I've just constantly seen them put up great numbers in whatever league they play in, and they're just very consistent and well-versed draft format players. But then you have people that I've gotten to know in the draft league more recently, guys like Gypsy King, Chimpact, and even Iron Flash Gaming, who literally have impressed me so much. Chimpact, started out with the GBA this season, and it seemed like he was starting out a little slow, but I knew how good of a player he was before that, and he's adapted really quickly. So at this point, I think that Chimpact is definitely one of the biggest threats in the league. And then guys like Gypsy King and Iron Flash Gaming, just from playing them a few times in mock battles, watching them play other people, I think that they are some of the best, if not the best, draft league format players I've ever met. So I think that those guys will definitely do pretty well this season just because they have a good amount of experience doing this, and they both drafted pretty well too, in my opinion. So they're definitely big threats.
Yeah, definitely, and it just put on even more to how much of a threat Gypsy is when they released the summer showdown like overall records.
Oh
How I
yeah,
saw it, yeah.
it's like you're looking through these records of the so-called all stars, and you don't see many guys with like above an 80% win record. And I think you know, mine said like 12-4 or something, but at this point I'm 14-4, so I think that's like slightly over 80%. So I'm like, wow, that's pretty good. And then it goes to Gypsy King, and the guy's 56-4, and that's not even counting probably like the last couple wins he's had in the NPL. So that record is absolutely ludicrous,
Yeah.
and it just goes to show how consistent of a player and builder he is. To go with that good of a record in a game like Pokemon, especially in a counter teaming format, is unreal. So if he could do that this season, you know, go with that so few losses and just dominate like he's done in most of his other leagues, then um, he would probably have to be, in my eyes, the best draft league player around because I think that we have a lot of the best draft league players around in this league, and I don't even know a lot of the former CPC guys like yourself and some of the other guys. I haven't even got to see you guys play as much, so we may have a ton of more great guys that I'm not even as totally aware about.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely gonna be a fun season for sure to see all of your skill levels, the people I haven't really seen. So, what do you think of your week one matchup against Chimpact?
It's definitely going to be interesting because his team, one thing about Chimpact's teams, they always seem to be like sort of weird, but like they always have great options. And if you can make them work and you can really think outside the box, they can put in a lot of work, throughout the course of the season. And Chimpact is definitely that type of player who just has a different type of thinking, level of thinking that's definitely hard for most, even really good players to. Um, understand and completely gauge when preparing for a match against him. So it's definitely not going to be an easy um, game by any stretch of the imagination because I think that I do have some certain threats that just put in a lot of work against his team, but at the same time, he has some threats that put in a lot of work against my team, but he also has just a lot of weird things that could be really tough for me to play around if he prepares really well, which we all have seen that he's capable of doing, and also we've seen that he's capable of playing incredibly well too. So if Chimpact, prepares really well and plays really well, I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could beat him honestly, because my team is very, offensive, and if I get outplayed, I'm in trouble. So it definitely is going to come down to, I think, me playing well, coming up with a good game plan that can keep me in the game no matter what he brings, because he's capable of bringing anything. But that's obviously a very difficult task. So I'm very excited to play it though, because Chimpact is a good friend of mine, and seeing him do this well in the GBA just makes me excited to play someone on such a high level.
Yeah, definitely. We are all really excited that we were able to get him in the league. All thanks to you, of course.
Yeah, he's like I said, he's been a friend of mine for a little while now, and yeah, it's I'm really glad to have him in the league too, because he's Chimpact, he's got things to do, and the fact that this is one of the things he wants to do is really awesome for us, and we're gonna have a good time playing with him this year.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so what do you think of your division this season?
Ridiculously stacked. I mean, um, we have we have a past winner of the CPC. Am I correct?
Um, Hold on, so the thing, yes, the
The
Emerald
Emerald
City
City.
Mavericks, yeah.
Yep. So I haven't really gotten to see him play too often, but I mean he won. So that obviously just goes to show that he's got a championship and he's very capable of doing well. So he's definitely going to be a threat no matter what. And like I said, I haven't seen him play as much, but I think we'll find out this season. And then you have Gypsy King, like I was mentioning before, who is one of the best players I've met in the draft format. A guy who's incredibly consistent, and his draft is actually really good against mine. So even though I'm not like a big fan of really bulky teams or like semi-stall type teams, he doesn't have to use it that way, and he's also good at using that type of thing, which is definitely tough for my team to handle. So it's going to be interesting getting to play him twice this season, because I just know how good he is, and the fact that I'm not loving my team matchup against him is going to be definitely tough to pull a win against him this season. But I'll definitely see what I can do. And then we also have a huge sleeper here in the Florida for Alligators, my boy Top Tier Boy. He is a phenomenal player who's catching on to the draft format really quickly as well, and he's doing really well in the NPL right now, considering he's a first-time coach, and that experience is, getting him to a high level really quickly. So I'm really impressed with how fast he's been able to adapt, and his draft is definitely pretty interesting. I think that the beginning of it looked really good, and then towards the end, some of the things started to drop off a little bit, and like some of the picks were like a little bit questionable, in my opinion. But then he's got Wish Cash, and like I don't have anything for that. So that's gonna probably be the bane of my existence. But overall, I think, like I said, my division is stacked. Sebastian and Top Tier Boy, that's his YouTube name, is amazing. Gypsy is obviously, he's Gypsy, and then we have a former champion. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. And now I'm thinking I probably should have asked the other people this, but I might as well ask you. What do you think of the other division in your conference?
The other division of my conference, I'm excited that I get to play them all, because I don't really know most of these guys. So, or at least I've spoken to some of them, but I don't really know them too well in terms of getting to see them play, or seeing, what their experience was like, what their skill level is like. They all seem like they have pretty solid drafts, so it's definitely going to be not easy to prepare for their drafts. But I don't really know, how they play yet. So I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye out on them, and watching to see what they battle like, because that's really important when it comes to preparing, and knowing how to play your opponent. So unfortunately, I couldn't give too detailed of an answer for that one, but yeah, definitely going to do my best to scout them out, and make sure that I have at least a good idea of what their skill level is, how they like to play, etc., etc.
All right, that's definitely going to be good. It's just definitely going to be some good matches, especially I especially look forward to matches against people that I don't know how they play. I really don't have any background because it really gives me even more exposure to different play styles.
Yeah, 100%. It's very exciting.
Yeah, all right. So now we have just some fun questions to end off.
Okay,
So, what is your favorite generation of Pokemon?
definitely Gen 2.
Hey, my man.
Definitely, like
Yeah.
I don't actually play GSC competitively or anything like that, but the games, oh my god, like Gold, Silver, Crystal, all my memories.
Yeah, I started off with that with Silver, man. Whew.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. So, what is your favorite Pokemon game? And you could say favorite main series and then favorite spin-off.
Uh, okay, main favorite is probably got to be Pokemon Crystal, just because I loved Gold and Silver so much. But then the fact that Crystal, it was kind of like an improvement of both of them. I was always in love with how the Pokemon could move when you first saw them and encountered them in battle. I love the fact that you can catch both Lugia and Ho-Oh in the same game, and also the introduction of legendary battle music with Raikou Entei and Suicune was amazing in my opinion. So when those games first came out and then Crystal came out and I got that one, I just spent so much time playing that game, and I can't believe I still have my original Crystal file. It's been over 15 years and this battery has still held up, knocking on wood, because it's probably not going to hold up for too much longer, but it was just an incredible game that every time I turn it on, I just get like a rush of nostalgia and emotion, and I love it. And then as for the spin-offs, I'm a huge Mystery Dungeon fan, and I'd probably have to go with the Super Mystery Dungeon, the new one, because I really liked Explorers of the Sky. That was a great one, and the other two were pretty good as well. But Explorers of the Sky was probably my favorite up until this new one. It was close, but I think I like the new one more.
All right. Yeah, that's Mystery Dungeon games are cool. I actually haven't taken the time to finish the new one. I have it. I just haven't finished it. I
The ending is definitely worth getting to. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right. So, what are some of your favorite Pokemon?
Well, my number one favorite is Infernape, and then there's Mega Sceptile, who, would be my favorite if it wasn't a Mega. I don't know. I feel weird about making like a Mega my favorite Pokemon, but Infernape is definitely my number one. And then you have Mega Sceptile, which is my favorite design. Some other Pokemon that I really like are Lugia was always my favorite legendary. Um, I'm a huge fan of Pokemon like Tyranitar. I like Raikou a lot. Volcarona was a pretty big favorite of mine, and I like some other megas like Mega Houndoom and Mega Steelix. So I would say, those Pokemon are some of my favorites that come right to the top of my head, but there are definitely a lot that I'm missing, because when it comes to Pokemon, like every now and then I'll just have waves where I really like certain Pokemon more than I usually do, et cetera, et cetera. Like Poliwrath, for example, is one of my original favorites, and every now and then I'm just like all on the Poliwrath bandwagon, and then I kind of forget about it. But yeah, those are definitely some of my favorites.
All right. So, just an additional question here because you didn't mention it. What about Reshiram? Because it is your team mascot.
Yeah, you know what? That's one of my favorite legendaries. It's got to be like, hmm, if you're gonna count like the main Uber legendaries, it's got to be between Lugia's number one, and then it's probably either Reshiram or Yveltal are number two. So I'm actually a St. Louis Ram fan, so the fact that I could fit Reshiram into my name was really awesome, because obviously not the St. Louis Rams anymore, but I wasn't able to change the Los Angeles Rams just yet. So the fact that I could fit one of my favorite legendaries in there was definitely really awesome, because Reshiram, especially in Gen 5 when Ubers was my favorite tier, I used to use Reshiram all the time competitively when it was actually good, and that made me love it even more back then. So I always have that special soft spot for Reshiram, and the fact that it is my team mascot is, very endearing to me. It makes me happy.
All right. So, what is your play style when it comes to competitive? Like, are you more of a hyper offensive player, bulky offense, balance? How do you play?
I'm definitely between bulky offense and hyper offense. If I had things my way, I would play hyper offensive, most of the time, just because I really like fast games. I really like using just offensive Pokemon that can bust open holes in opposing teams and things like that. But the problem with HO is just that it's kind of unreliable, and I don't like the idea of, especially in big games, things coming down to 50-50. So even when it comes to like Smogon Standard OU, I try to build my HO teams with really interesting game plans that will catch a lot of the common metagame trends off guard, because when you could do that, then it allows you to just, play relatively safely, but still have a fast paced game where you're just kind of blowing open teams with hyper offensive squads. So that's my favorite thing to do, but obviously it's not that easy to do in the format. And I did draft a pretty hyper offensive team, but I made sure that I had pretty good defensive synergy overall, just because, you know, one big thing about hyper offense is pivoting around, and if I could play around opposing threats and, get my offensive threats in and safely, etc., I could definitely, put in some work this season, and be a big threat to any team that I play. So that is, I guess, my answer on that. Bulky offense would definitely be my main playstyle because it's definitely the one that I'm most comfortable with, the one I win the most with. But hyper offense is probably my favorite, and I just wanted to see what I could do with a hyper offensive draft that definitely kept a good defensive core, a good defensive synergy, because I feel like I don't know, I just feel like I'm better at overwhelming my opponents offensively than I am preparing for them defensively when it comes to draft format in general. So I guess that's a decent answer to my play style.
All right, so just an extra question here. Would you ever consider trying out like balance or semi-stall?
Well, I've made a few balanced teams in small land that have been fairly successful. My current MPL team, I would say, is bulky offense, but it definitely has the ability to go balance. And a couple of games, I definitely played as if I were playing balance, and I'm definitely comfortable playing balance if I know the team well that I'm bringing in. But when it comes to semi-stall and stall, I just have like a vendetta against them, and I like never want to play them pretty much. So I just have no interest in trying to play my opponent defensively the entire game and have to worry about um, hacks getting in the way of my strategy more than if I was playing offensively, because when you just bring a lot of bulky Pokemon and need to rely on switching back and forth and just prolonging the game and making the turns longer and longer, you just open yourself up to more potential hacks scenarios, which I'm not saying stall or semi-stall aren't very effective playstyles. When played well, they really are, but because they are so susceptible to hacks, it's definitely a huge turnoff to me, and it also makes the games more boring. So I'm here to have fun, and that's one of the reasons I really am just not too interested in anything more than balance.
Yeah, I actually agree with you there. Like I remember one league, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try stall, and it was terrible. I
Yeah,
don't
first
like
of all,
it.
you need to know how to play stall. You need to be comfortable with it, because if you're like an aggressive player and you try to like, play around your opponent a little too much, then you could just put yourself in a huge hole. And then also, it's just like you go out and you get hacked, and then all of a sudden, maybe you had a great game plan, but Pokemon just laughs at that every now and then. So that's why stall is just so iffy to me.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so the last question we have for you is which starter Pokemon are you going to be choosing in Pokemon Sun and Moon?
I think I'm gonna go with Litten, but the problem is like I always wait till the final evolutions are revealed because, for example, take X and Y. I was definitely gonna pick either a Fennekin or a Chespin because I'm a huge like fire type is my favorite. So even though I didn't love Fennekin's design, I thought maybe it would evolve into some type of like cool like cat or fox or something. But it did evolve into a fox, but I don't think it's a really cool one. And then Chespin, I wasn't crazy on the design, but I thought it was kind of cute, and I thought it could, end up being something pretty cool. And Chestnut is pretty cool, but Froakie, I really just did not like the design very much at all. And Greninja is literally one of, in my opinion, the most well-designed Pokemon I've ever seen, and it's definitely one of my favorite Gen 6 Pokemon at the very least. So that is why I like to wait until I see the final evolutions. But Litten is right now my favorite. I think it's got the best design out of the three, and like I said, Fire is my favorite.
Yeah, I agree with you on all that. I normally choose the fire type starter Pokemon. Only gen I didn't was third gen, 'cause I didn't think Torchic was all that until I saw Blaziken. I was like, oh, probably should have done that.
Yep, I went with Trico then too, just because I thought Trico looked cooler, but it ended up working out well because Sceptile is one of my favorites.
Yeah. But anyways, that is it for this CPC Season 3 coach interview. Do you have anything else to say?
Not just that, I'm really, really excited for this season. I hope that I could put in as much time as possible because that's what it's going to take to do well in a league like this. But guys, for all of the, for all of you guys watching, definitely stay tuned week in and week out because there will not be a week in the CPC where there won't be multiple hype games because there are that many good players and that many great drafts. So definitely stay tuned because there's going to be a really exciting season ahead. And good luck to all the other coaches.
Alright, so with that, we're going to end off this interview. Thank you all for watching. Remember to rate, comment, subscribe, and share this video. If you want to check out Matty Brollic and the rest of the coaches' YouTube channels, they will be in the description below. I have been your CPC Commissioner 681 Shadow. I'll see you all next time.